Know then, fair youth, that the form of this course was the word of Vitus, the son of Vain Man, who dwells in the city of Meridianus. And this which I am to utter is a recantation of Stychorius, the son of godly man, who comes from the town of Desire, and is the following effect. I told a lie when I said that the beloved ought to accept the non-lover when he might have the lover, because the one is sane and the other mad. It might be so if madness were simply an evil, but there is also a madness which is divine, and the source of the chiefest blessings granted to men. For prophecy is a madness, and the prophetess at Delphi and the priestesses at Dodoni, when out of their senses, have conferred great benefits at Helios, both in public and private life. But when in their senses, few or none. And I might also tell you how Sybil and the other inspired persons have given to many an open intimidation of the future, which has saved them from falling. But it would be tedious to speak of what everyone knows. There will be more reason appealing in the ancient inventors of names, who would have connected prophecy, which foretells the future and is the noblest of arts, with madness, or called them both by the same name. If they had deemed madness to be disgrace or dishonor, they must have thought that there was an inspired madness which was a noble thing. For two words, mantiki and mantlike, and really are the same. And the letter T is the only modern truth, and tasteless inspiration. And this is confirmed by the name which was given by them to the rational investigation of futurity, whether made by the help of birds or of other sciences. For as much as it is in art, which supplies from the reasoning faculty mind and information to human thought, they originally termed oisnoisnak. But the word has lately been altered and made sonorous by the modern introduction of the letter omega. In proportion, prophecy is more perfect, and Augustin augury, both in name and fact, in the same portion, as the ancients testify, is madness superior to a sane mind. For one is only of human, but the other of divine origin. Again, where plagues and mightiest woes have bred in church and families, owing to some ancient blood, guiltlessness, there are madness has entered with holy prayers and rites, and by inspired utterances found a way of deliverance for those who are in need. And he has part in this gift, and is truly possessed of Julia out of his mind, is by the purification and mysteries made whole, and exempt from evil, future as well as present, and has released from the calamity which is afflicting him. The third kind is the madness of those who are possessed by the muses, which, taking hold of delicate and virgin soul, and their inspiring frenzy awakens Lycarol and other numbers, with those adoring the myriad actions of ancient heroes for the instruction of prosperity. But he who has, having no touch of Moses' madness in his soul, comes to the door and thinks he will get into the temple by helping the art of he. I say, and his poetry are not admitted, the same madness appears, and nowhere when he enters into rivalry of the madman. I might tell many noble deeds which have sprung from inspired madness, and therefore let no one frighten or flutter us by saying that the temperate friend is be chosen rather than inspired. But let him further show that love is not sent by the gods for any good to lover or beloved. If he can do so, we will allow him to carry off the palm, and we on our part will provide an answer to him that the madness of love is the greatest of heaven's blessings, and that the proof shall be one which the wise will receive, and the witling disbelieve. But first, let us all view the affections and actions of the soul, divine and human, and try to discern the truth about them. The beginning of our proof is as follows. The soul, through all of her being immortal, for which is ever in motion, is immortal. But that which moves another, moved by another, is ceasing to move, also ceases to live. Only the self-moving, never leaving self, never ceases to move, and is the founding and the beginning of motion to all that moves besides. But the beginning is forgotten of nothing, for if it were begotten of something, then the begotten would not come from the beginning. You see, but if begotten must also be indestructible, for if the beginning were to be destroyed, there would be no beginning out of anything, nor anything out of a beginning. And all things must have a beginning. And therefore the self-moving is the beginning of motion, and this can be neither be destroyed nor begotten. Else the whole heavens and all of creation collapse and still stand, and never have a motion or birth. But if the self-moving is proved to be immortal, he who affirms that self-motion is the very idea and essence of the soul will not be put into confusion. For the body, which is moved from willingness, is without soulless, but which is moved from within the soul, for which nature of the soul. But if this be true, must be the soul be self-moving, and therefore of necessity unbegotten and mortal. Enough of the soul's immortality. Of the nature of the soul, through her true form be ever theme of large and more mortal discourse, let me speak briefly in figure. And let the figure be a composite of a pair of winged horses, of a charioteer. Now the winged horses and the charioteers of the gods are all of them noble, and of noble descent. But of other races are mixed. The human charioteer drives in pair, and one of them is a noble breed, and the other is ignoble, an ignoble breed. And the driving of them gives necessity a great deal of trouble to him. I will endeavor to explain to you in what way that mortal differs from the mortal creature. The soul on earth has totality as a care of inanimate being everywhere, and traverses the whole of heaven in diverse forms, appearing when perfect and fully winged. She soars upward and o'ers the whole world, whereas the imperfect soul, losing her wings and dropping in her flight, at least settles on the solid ground, there finally finding a home. She receives an earthly frame, which appears to be self-moved, but is really moved by her power. And this composition of soul and body is called a living and mortal creature. For a mortal soul, such union can be reasonably believed to be, all through fancy not having seen or surely known the nature of God, may imagine a mortal creature having both a body and a soul, which are united throughout all time. Let that, however, be as God wills. And he have spoken exactly of him, and now let's ask the reason why the soul loses her wings. The wing is a corporeal element which is most akin to the divine, and which by nature tends to soar aloft, and carry which gravitates downwards into an upper region, which is the habitation of the gods. The divine is beauty, wisdom, goodness, and the like. And by these the wing of the soul is nourished, and grows a space. But when fed upon evil, and foulness and the opposite of good, wastes and falls away. Zeus, the mighty god, holding the reins of a winged chariot, leads in the way of heaven, ordering all and taking care of all. And there follows him the array of gods and demigods, martial in elven bands. Hestia alone abides at home, and in the house of heaven. Of the rest they must be reckoned among the princely 12 march in their appointed order. They see many blessed sights in the inner sights of heaven, and there are many ways to fend and fro. Along with the blessed gods are passing, everyone doing his own work. He may follow who will, and can, for the jealousy has no place in the celestial choir. But when they are go to the banquet and festival, they move up the steep and the top of the vault of heaven. The chariots of the gods in prose, obeying the rein, gliding rapidly, but the others labor. For the vicious steed goes heavily, weighing down the chariots of the earth, where a steed has not been thoroughly trained. And in this hour agony, an extremist conflict for the soul. For the mortals, when they are at the end of their cause, go forth and stand upon the outside of heaven, and the revolution of spheres carries them around, and they behold the things beyond. But of the heaven which is above the heavens, what earthly poet ever did will ever sing worthily? Is it such that I will describe? For I must speak the truth. When the truth is my theme, there abides the very being of which true knowledge is concerned. The colorless, formless, intangible essence visible to my only mind, the pilot of soul. The divine intelligence being nurtured upon mind and pure knowledge, and the intelligence of every soul which is capable of receiving the food proper to it, rejoices at beholding reality, and once more gazing upon truth, is replenished and made glad, until the revolution of the world brings her round in the same place. In the revolution she beholds justice, temperament, and knowledge absolute, not in the form of generation, or any relation which all men call existence, but knowledge absolute, and its existence is absolute. And beholding the true existences in all like manner, and feasting upon them, she passes down the interior of the heavens, and returns home. There be the charioteer pulling up his horses at stall, giving them ambrosia to eat, and nectar to drink. The end.